I don't know if we did this last time or not. Under circles, subheading area. Ladies and gentlemen, there is one small issue when you try to find the area of a circle. Does anybody know what that issue is? Area is given in what unit of measurement? Square units, right? So what's the problem with that? Trying to get cutting a, it's a little like, how many of you like your pizza cut into squares? Anybody get their pizza like cut into the square things? How do you figure out, like, if you're splitting it like between 5 people, how do you figure out how many pieces you're supposed to get? Because if you take the inside pieces, they're full squares, but if you take the outside pieces, they're like little half-round little notches of square, of little things. So Brady, how do you divide that up evenly? Because if you say, you could tell you and Christian, you could say, okay, I get 7 and you get 7, but Christian takes his all out of the middle, which are nice perfect squares, and he gives you just the little round outside edges, which are like a third the size of that. How is that even fair?
We usually just get our own pizza.
Oh, here we go. See, and that's the world we live in. Area of circle pie pieces. So here's the deal with that, ladies and gentlemen. Did we do this last year? Let's see if this comes up. So the deal was this, and I give you the short and condensed version here. You know, if you're trying to find the area of this, is what some smart person said. Well, if you take your little I'll put that back. You take your little puzzle piece there, and you take your circle and you cut it into all these different pieces, but you alternate them, and you put them together. You do that for every little piece. What you end up making is a nice little rectangle. Okay. You remember doing this?
Yeah.
No. Look, it made such an impact on you, I can tell. But the deal is, and then you use the formula for the area of a rectangle to figure out what the area of this shape would be. Well, if I do that, what is the area of a rectangle? Area of a rectangle is length times width. The problem with that is, how do I know what those things are? What is this width? Now notice, this width is this distance from here to here, which is the same as this distance from there to there. What do we call that? The radius. So I know that the width is the radius. Whoa, let's put that right there. And then what's going to be this distance that I make up? You know, it's going to have all these little round edges to it. But if you did it small enough, they would actually be flat. What is that distance there? If you put all those little, half of the little pie wide ends are down here, and the other half of the little wide ends are up there. If you take all half of those wide ends, which would be this, get this out of the way, which would be this distance from here to here, this is just the curvy end of it. What would that be, Kendall? It's not the whole circumference though, because only half of the circles end up half up there and half down there, so it's half the circumference. So this is 1/2 of the circumference. So if you really, ladies and gentlemen, if you really wanted to use the formula like this, the area of a circle is, let me do it over here. Where do you go? The area of the, sorry, don't worry, I'm a trained professional. I will not. The area of a circle, you could actually write down as this. We will simplify it though, don't you worry. You could write down this. Since it was the length times the width, the area of the circle was the radius we said was, the width. Oh, this is going to kill me. The radius we said was right here. And the length we said was 1/2 of the circumference, right? So we multiply those two together. If you like that formula, you could use that. That's the area of a circle. But we can simplify it because what's my formula for circumference? Pi times diameter. So now we could change it to 1/2 of pi times diameter times the radius. I could use that also for the area of my circle. But, ladies and gentlemen, because we have the commutative property of multiplication, let me change the order. I could do area equals 1/2 of, area equals 1/2 the diameter times the radius times pi. Now that makes it easier, don't it? Well, what is, ladies and gentlemen, what is half the diameter called? Another radius. So really we end up using this. Instead of saying half diameter, we go area equals radius times pi, which really we shorten to say radius equals pi r squared, which is where it all comes from. And that's all you need to know. You need to know that area, maybe we should do that in giant. Let's do that in super big. What color should we do in super big?
Magenta.
Magenta, I don't even know what that is, so we'll just call it.
It's purple and pink.
Area of the circle equals pi r squared. That is everything you need to know to get you. That's kind of a. So what, oh boy, okay. I guess we have to do a couple more things here. Now, what they're going to do is, because life is hard when you're in 7th grade, okay, we're going to do a circle here. They're going to take a circle, and remember circle is 360 degrees, that's always going to be important. Okay, and they are going to give you what we call a sector of the circle. A sector just means a pi piece. I should write that down somewhere. A sector equals a pi piece. Interestingly enough, pi and piece start with the same 3 letters. You ever recognize that? Okay. And they'll also give you this. We call this, oh wait, we call this thing right here a central angle. Maybe because it's in the center and it's an angle. And they're going to give you a circle. They're going to tell you its central angle. And they're going to ask you to find the area. So let me demonstrate such things to you. Okay, so here I've got my circle. I've got a 45-degree angle. I know my radius is 4 centimeters. And I then am asked to say, what is the area? Do they actually label this? Yeah. R, M, and S. What is the area of sector R, M, S? And don't be afraid and frightened, ladies and gentlemen. You know how to find the area of a whole circle, correct? The area of a whole circle is pi times radius times radius. Well, you don't have a whole circle. You just have this little sector here. You should be able to tell me what fraction of the circle this is, because I know that a whole circle is how many degrees? I have 45 of 360 degrees. What does that reduce down to? Now, does it work out evenly? I guess it does. I think it's 8, is it not? Yes, it's 1/8. So if you find the area of the whole circle, you then are just going to divide it by 8, because there are 8 pieces that exact size there. Now, I would tell you, this is where, you know, you are now 7th graders, so you have to kind of use some smart math and all this, and use some helpful little shortcuts. I'm not one for cutting corners, but this is not really cutting corners, just making the math a whole lot easier for you. So if you fill in the blanks, area equals pi. What's the radius? Somebody? 4, right? Times 4, all over 2. I guess I didn't need that part there. I'm sorry, all over 8, whoever was watching that. Why? Because I'm cutting into 8 equal pieces. Anybody know what's going to make my life easier? Rather than multiplying 4 times 4 is 16, multiplying that by 3.4, and then dividing that by 8, ladies and gentlemen, the book has done a good job of teaching you that you can factor things, and if you get the same factor on top as the factor on bottom, you can cross-cancel them. For example, if you have a 4 here and an 8 here, what number goes into 4 and 8? How about higher? You can divide this by 4 and get a 1 up here, divide this by 4 and get a 2, and then you keep going from there. What number goes into 2 and 4? 2. You can divide this by 2, divide this by 2, you get 2. So now your problem just becomes 2 times 1 times pi. So it's just 3.14, because they'll tell you to use that for pi times 2. Your answer becomes 6.28, whatever this was, centimeters squared. It's certainly a lot easier than doing 4 times 4 is 16, taking 16 times pi, and then dividing it by 8. Use the helps that you can to get where you need to go. Oh, and then the other thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, if they tell you to express it in terms of pi, if they say in terms of pi, that means you don't have to change pi to anything. You can just leave the symbol there. In other words, this one, if you're leaving this in terms of pi, you would just write down area equals 2 pi. Because you don't have to change this to a decimal, you just use the 2 times 1 times pi. If they say leave it in terms of pi, that means there should be a pi in your answer. Not a blackberry pie or a blueberry pie, but a pie nonetheless. Here is what I would like for you to do, ladies and gents. As much as I hear this, for all intents and purposes.